Good. Yeah. Still call the name, though. We are ready. Good morning. My name is Fred Farias, and I'm the chairman of the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. Before we call this meeting to order, I'd like to announce it's 10:49 a.m. And I'll also like to announce that October 19, 2021, Governor Greg Abbott appointed Dr. Daniel Wong to the Coordinating Board, and I've appointed Dr. Wong as a member of the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success. I will formally introduce our new member at tomorrow's board meeting. I would now like to pass the gavel over to Ms. Donna Williams to officially call the meeting of the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success to order. Ms. Williams, yes, please.
I'm good. Good morning. My name is Donna Williams, and I'm the chair of the Committee on Academic Workforce and Success. It is 10:49, January the 26th, 2022, and I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Committee on Academic Workforce and Success. Please be aware that this meeting is being broadcast live via the Internet. Before we begin, I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome those who will be joining us via Zoom and ask that they observe the following etiquette. Please state your name before you speak. Mute your microphone when you're not speaking, and please keep background noises to a minimum. Members, when I call your name, please announce present. Donna Williams, present. Sam Torn, Vice Chair.
Present.
Richard Clemmer.
Present.
Brett Frias.
Present.
Emma Schwartz.
Present.
Daniel Wong.
Present.
Welcome to the committee, Daniel.
Thank you very much.
And also Matthew Smith, our student representative. I don't think Matthew signed on. Please record in the minutes that we have a quorum. Agenda item number 2 is consideration of approval of the minutes for the October 2021 committee meeting. Do I have a motion for approval of the October 2021 minutes of the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success? May I have a motion?
Moved.
I have a motion by Sam Torn. May I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
The motion passes. And the second was by Chairman Frias for the minutes in case. Okay. Agenda item number 3 is public testimony on academic items relating to the Committee on Academic and Workforce Success. We do not have any registered to testify, so we'll go on to the next item. Agenda item number 4 is consideration of approval of the consent calendar. The consent calendar includes non-controversial items that we think can be approved without comment or discussion. This allows us to save time for other items that need more of our attention. Highlighted items in gray are the consent items on the agenda. The following items are on consent. Agenda item 5A, it's the report to the board on school closures and or teach-outs pursuant to Rule 7.75. Agenda item 5D, consideration of approving the issuance of a request for applications for the, number 1, Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education-Based Grant Program. Number 2 is the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education State Leadership Grant Program. Number 3 is Carl D. Perkins Equitable Access and Opportunity Grant Program. Item number 4 is Developmental Education Program. And item number 5 is the Minority Health Research and Education Grant Program. Agenda item 5F is consideration of approving the appointment of members to, number 1, the Advisory Committee on Post-Secondary Education for Persons with Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. Number 2 is Apply Texas Advisory Committee. And number 3 is the Learning Technology Advisory Committee, LTAC, Student Representative Replacement. Are there any items that anyone would like to add to the non-rule portion of the consent calendar? Are there any items that anyone wants to remove from the non-rule portion of the consent calendar? Do I have a motion of approval for the non-rule portion of the consent calendar?
So moved.
I have a motion by Sam Torn. May I have a second?
Second.
And second by Dr. Wong. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Members, the next item on the consent calendar are the rule items. We have no rule items on consent today, so we'll move to the next item. Agenda item 5A was approved on consent. Agenda item 5B is consideration of adopting the July 2021 Annual Compliance Report for institutions under a Certificate of Authorizations, names beginning with P through Z. Dr. Tina Jackson, Assistant Commissioner for Workforce, will present this item and be available to answer any questions. And Dr. Jackson is virtual. Dr. Jackson, hello.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair Williams and board members. This is a report on required annual compliance reports for institutions operating under Certificate of Authorization. Coordinating board staff reports the status of these institutions twice per year. This report covers institutions with names beginning with P through Z. The compliance reports ensure board staff is aware of any changes in accreditation, degree programs offered, complaints, and financial viability. Staff are in frequent contact with institutions working to ensure all necessary information is provided to receive and remain in compliance. We also monitor closely any financial issues to ensure we stay ahead of problems or impeding closures. This concludes my report.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions for Dr. Jackson? Do I have a motion to adopt the July 2021 Annual Compliance Report for institutions under Certificate of Authorizations with names beginning with P through Z? May I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion, and may I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 5C is the consideration of adopting the Certification Advisory Council's recommendation relating to a request from Southwest School of Art for the 5th Certificate of Authority to grant degrees in Texas. Dr. Tina Jackson will present this item and be available for questions.
Good morning again. Hi, good morning again, Madam Chair and board members. Agenda item 5C is for consideration to adopt the Certification Advisory Council's recommendation related to a request from Southwest School of Art for a 5th Certificate of Authority to grant degrees in Texas. Southwest School of Arts has operated under 4 previous 2-year certificates of authority. It requested and received permission from Commissioner Keller to apply for a 5th Certificate of Authority due to the extraordinary circumstances of the pandemic, which prevented it from obtaining institutional accreditation by SACS-COC within 8 years. Southwest School of Arts already holds accreditation from the National Association of School of Art and Design. This concludes my report on that process. Also wanted to just share a little piece that I think makes sense to bring it all together. In addition, Southwest School of Arts is working towards a merger with the University of Texas at San Antonio. The merger is expected to be completed in 2023. The Certificate of Advisory Committee also recommended approval for the fifth Certificate of Authority with the following conditions: that the Certificate of Authority ends January 2024 and no subsequent application for Southwest School of Arts will be allowed. This is the final Certificate of Authority for consideration from the Coordinating Board. Commissioner Keller approved and concurred with the CAC's recommendation. Your approval will allow Southwest School of Arts to continue operating while it works towards UTSA's merger and subsequent inclusion with UTSA's scope of accreditation by SACS COC. And this is concluding my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. When do they expect the accreditation to take place? I know the certificate is granted through 2024, so I'm assuming it's before that, but do we know when?
They had said that it would be around 2023 that it should be complete.
Okay. And just for the record, how many certificates of authority can we grant to one institution at a time? Is 5 the max, or?
Yes, and I'm gonna refer to Ray Martinez. I'm pretty sure that it's 5, the max, but I believe under this circumstance, this was an exception to the rule because of the pandemic. Normally, I think it's 4, but just off the top of my head, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I'm pretty sure that it's 4 typically, and that we gave an exception, and that there was a 5th certificate of authorization.
Yeah, that's correct, Ms. Williams. What Dr. Jackson said, that your rule limits it to 4, except upon showing a sufficient cause. In this case, the Commissioner and CAC agreed that there was sufficient cause for the issuance of the 5th certificate exceeding the 8-year maximum.
Members, do we have any other questions for Dr. Jackson? Okay, hearing none, may I have a motion?
Move.
I have a motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Second.
It's been seconded. We'll go with Emma Swartz this time, Chair. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Agenda item 5D was approved on consent. Agenda item 5E is consideration of approving the certification required by the Texas Education Code, Section 62.146, for the National Research University Fund for fiscal year 2021. Dr. Andrews Lofters, Interim Director for Academic and Health Affairs, will present this item and be available to answer questions. Dr. Lofters.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning. Good morning, board members. Established in 2009, the National Research University Fund, or Nruf, provides support for emerging research universities to achieve national prominence as major research universities. The coordinating board is required to annually verify and certify information about eligibility of emerging research institutions to receive monetary distributions from the fund. The coordinating board report is due to the comptroller and legislature as soon as practicable in each state fiscal year, which usually occurs in early spring. 4 of the 8 universities designated as emerging research universities, in the accountability system currently receive NRUF funding. Texas Tech University and the University of Houston became eligible in 2012. The University of Texas at Dallas became eligible in 2018. And the University of Texas at Arlington became eligible in 2021. The institutions that have met NRUF eligibility receive annual funding that has ranged from $6.4 to $9.5 million per year, with an average of $8.1 million per year over the last 8 years. To receive NRUF funds, an emerging research university must meet statutorily established benchmarks that include $45 million in restricted research expenditures for 2 consecutive years. In September of 2021, the commissioner reported to the Comptroller of Public Accounts that the University of Texas at San Antonio had restricted research expenditures above the threshold of $45 million in fiscal year 2020, and that it could reach eligibility through the review of 5 programs as provided for in Texas Administrative Code 15.43. If the institution again met the criteria in fiscal year 2021 and received favorable program reviews, the institution would be eligible for fund distribution in fiscal year 2022, pending the outcome of a statutorily required audit conducted by the State Auditor's Office in fiscal year 2022. The University of Texas at El Paso reached the required restricted research expenditure benchmark in fiscal year 2020, but did not achieve the additional required benchmarks to become eligible for Nruf funding in fiscal year 2022. The Nruf certification report will be completed once all emerging research institutions submit certified data to the THECB for this purpose. The certification report is expected to be finalized in spring of 2022, and the THECB staff requests that the board authorize the commissioner to submit the Nruf certification report for fiscal year 2021 to the comptroller and legislature as soon as it's finalized. That concludes my presentation for this item, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Dr. Lofters? I have one on the University of El Paso. Even though they raised the money, the other 5 criteria they didn't meet. Do they still have another opportunity to continue applying for it, or you get one shot, or how does that work?
Thank you for that question, Madam Chair. Yes, they continue to try to reach the eligibility benchmarks. So if they don't make it this year, they can try to do it again next year, based on whatever criteria that they need to meet to try to achieve eligibility in the Nruf distribution fund.
Any other questions?
Just for the benefit of the new board members, what other universities are part of the Nruf candidacy program that are up and coming?
Thank you, Member Wilson. I already mentioned Texas Tech University, University of Houston, University of Texas at San Antonio, and University of Texas at Arlington. There's also University of Texas at El Paso, University of Texas, University of North Texas, and University of Texas at Dallas. I think that covers all of them.
I think to answer Mr.
Oh,
Williams'
sorry.
question.
There's
Were
one
you gonna
more.
add another
Texas,
one?
yes, Texas State University. Sorry about that. There was one more.
Yeah, thank you. There you go. Thank you.
And
also to add, I'm sorry, Ms. Williams. I was just going to finish on Mr. Williams. Of course, we want to encourage all the other universities in the state to also, up their game as well, right? Obviously.
Goal of the state.
That's right. That's a good point.
Research university.
That's right.
Are there any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the certification for the National Research University Fund for fiscal year 2021?
I'll make a motion.
So moved. May I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 5F was approved on consent. Agenda item 5G, consideration of approving the following requests for new degree programs. Agenda item 5G1 is consideration of approving the request from the University of Texas at Dallas for a Doctor of Business, a DBA degree with a major in Business Administration. Dr. Hassan Pakul, Dean Naveen Jadal, School of Management, and Dr. Jacob Varzizi, Vice Dean of Naveen Jadal, School of Management, are available for questions and comments. Dr. James Goldman, Director of Academic and Health Affairs, will present this item and be available to answer questions. Dr. Goldman? I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that.
Still on mute.
My apologies.
There you go. Okay.
There we go. Sorry about that. University of Texas at Dallas is proposing a Doctor of Business Administration degree in Business Administration. The cohort-based, face-to-face proposed program is designed to be completed in 3 years with only full-time students. The proposed program anticipates attracting engineers and executives from the Metroplex technology industries. The focus of the curriculum would be on the quantitative research skills necessary to address issues in the workplace with a data-driven approach. The proposed DBA program would build on UT Dallas Business School's existing graduate programs, specifically the PhD in Management Science and the MBA. The proposed 72 semester credit hour program is not requesting formula funding. It would be wholly supported by tuition funds, which would be $40,000 per year for 3 years. As a professional and not an academic program, students or their employers would be expected to cover the full tuition costs. The institution has sufficient faculty and support staff in place to begin the proposed program. No additional hires would be necessary. If approved, UTD will submit reports in years 1, 3, and 5, confirming institutional commitments and assessing the progress of program implementation. Institutional staff are ready to answer questions if you have any.
Are there any questions? Well, first, before we move to questions, would Dr. Perkins or Dr. Varzizi like, and Dr. Varzizi, I know I'm messing up your name. I am so sorry. but would you guys like to make comments?
Yes, let me just take 1 minute. This is Hasan Pirkul. I'm the Dean of the Jindal School of Management, and I want to thank you all for giving us this opportunity to present our program and take questions if you have any. This is a 3-year program. It is a modest size program. We are planning on a steady state about 24 students and planning on graduating 7 to 8 students a year. It is focused on practicing executives, VP level, most likely, people with technical backgrounds. It is focused on analyzing business problems and solving business problems. So the participants will gain analysis techniques and abilities, knowledge that will help them with their jobs. Also, that will set them up for retirement if they wanted to go and teach in a higher education institution. For us, it is really not a significant financial program. It's financially insignificant, but it is significant in that we think it will give us access to real-life problems, so our faculty's research will be positively influenced working on real-life problems, and it will also help us provide access and outreach to major corporations in the Metroplex. So our primary goal is to strengthen our ties with corporations and to improve our research to be more useful to these corporations. So with that, I'll stop, and if there are questions, I'll take them. Thank you.
Members, any questions?
Yeah, I do have a question. Dean, what are the requirements to be admitted to the program? Do you need to have a Master of Business?
I think that I don't think you need to have a Master of Business. My colleague might correct me if I'm wrong. What we are looking for is somebody with a background in engineering or comp science or a technical degree with good math background. And so if you have an undergraduate in engineering and number of years, 10 plus years of experience in the sector, I think you will be a candidate.
So it'd be more like a Master of Executive program, but more extended in terms of more technical.
It is more analysis, more math, more technical, yes.
Varghese Jacob, and there is a research component. They do have to write a dissertation. So unlike a master's, they do have a dissertation requirement.
So I have a question, Madam Chair. My question is, there's only 3 other programs similar to what you're proposing right now. One of them is a stone toss away from you, a neighbor, the University of Dallas. How's your program going to differentiate the difference? And the second question would be to our board staff. Have we heard any comments from any of the other institutions, more particularly University of Dallas, with the implementation or approving this program?
So the primary difference would be our focus. We are focusing on more technical and mathematical program, where theirs is a more generalist managerial program. And so as such, I don't think we would be directly competing with them.
Okay, thank you.
I think the second question would be Dr. Goodman. Have you heard when you guys were doing the site visits and the setting up the program, did you hear any feedback from, did you say University of Dallas, UT Dallas, that has a similar program?
Or, no, they are UT Dallas, University of Dallas.
The University of Dallas.
Right.
No, we did not
I'm
hear
sure,
from the...
I'm sorry. So I'm sure probably we would have heard something from the staff. So we probably didn't. So I'm just curious. There's nothing in the material, but that's fine. You answered my question about the differentiation and the growth of the program. You said about 7 students. So I think anytime you do innovative programs like this, in terms of people who have the knowledge and the background, and then gain more knowledge, to be able to have, I guess, from real-world experience, and to be able to apply everything from day one on the job, I think that's very important. So this is a great program, so thank you all for bringing this forward. I just want to make sure that I think being past chair of the Academic Workforce Success Committee is that we don't have duplication, but that we also, this is a different type of program, because this is kind of folks that are already working, but I think it's important to emphasize differentiation and to be able to have enough candidates to fill the position. You're not asking for any formula funding. You also have faculty in place. So like you said, this is something that would be more beneficial, not only to really the students, but also to your faculty as well, from getting information what's going on in the field from the workforce. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the request from the University of Texas at Dallas for a Doctor of Business degree with a major in business administration?
So moved.
I have a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is agenda item G2, is consideration of approving the request from the University of Texas at San Antonio for a Doctor of Philosophy, a PhD in molar microbiology and immunology. Dr. Astrid Cardona, Chair, and Dr. Seishu, Graduate Director, and Dr. Ambika Mutar, Vice Provost of Graduate Studies and Dean of Graduate School, Dr. David Silver, Dean of College of Sciences, are available to answer questions and comments. Dr. Goldman will present this item and be available to answer questions.
Thank you, Chair Williams. The University of Texas at San Antonio is proposing a Doctor of Philosophy in Molecular Microbiology and Immunology. The proposed 66-credit-hour PhD program would focus on scientific study of microorganisms that cause disease and the host immune response to them. If approved, the proposed face-to-face program would prepare students in basic and translational microbial products, vaccines, novel components, and strategies to prevent transmission of diseases and advance public health policies for the state of Texas and the U.S. The proposed PhD program would be a collaborative educational and research effort with the Texas Biomedical Research Institute and the Institute of Surgical Research at San Antonio Military Medical Center. The molecular microbiology and immunology program would be in UTSA's Department of Biology within the College of Sciences on the main campus in San Antonio. Research projects for doctoral candidates and laboratories of primary faculty members would be at the main campus of UTSA, and support faculty members would be at Texas Biomedical Research Institute or San Antonio Military Medical Center. According to the Texas Workforce Commission, microbiologists and immunologist professions have a projected increase in employment from 2018 to 2028 of 110 additional job openings annually. Currently, there are 9 institutions in Texas that offer PhD programs in microbiology and microbiology and immunology. The institution has sufficient faculty and support staff in place to begin the proposed program, so no additional hires would be necessary. If approved, UTSA will submit reports in years 1, 3, and 5, confirming institutional commitments and assessing the progress of program implementation. Institutional representatives are ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Welcome, Dr. Seishu and Dr. Cardona. Which one of you would like to make comments first?
Thank you, Madam Williams. I will start with some additions to the notes already made.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the main aspects of this program is to educate, mentor, and sponsor the next generation of scientists that will be specialized on the study not only of microorganisms that cause disease, but in the immune response to them. We believe that students will benefit because UTSA is now recognized as a Carnegie R1 research institution, and therefore students will benefit directly from hands-on research training working with expert faculty. Also, we have very excited faculty that we've been trying to accomplish this goal of having a PhD program in molecular microbiology and immunology for several years. And the faculty and the students are very excited about bringing this degree program to the South Texas region. We will become, a public university that would be able to offer this degree program, and I think the interaction of graduate students with undergraduate students and the undergraduate population that we have serving a focused Hispanic set of students, I think will be of great value. In addition, the variety of research interests that we have that span not only bacterial pathogens, but also fungal pathogens and immune diseases that attack chronic conditions, autoimmune diseases, and therefore, especially now with this pandemic, we understand kind of like the gap that we have in more understanding of the immune system in humans and how can we better tackle therapeutics and vaccines. Our group is very well positioned to move the field forward, and therefore we're very excited to have the opportunity to engage students in this journey. I'll stop right here.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to add a few more things that Dr. Cardona mentioned just a while ago. The first important thing is also about the program for employment possibilities, which is very critical, and as was mentioned this morning. So San Antonio, UT San Antonio, and South Texas lacks a public university that offers a PhD program in molecular biology and immunology at this point. And most of our students do come from South Texas, and so being at San Antonio is a very good, attractive position for them to come down to San Antonio to pursue this degree. And secondly, the most important thing is that San Antonio is Military City, USA. And so there are a lot of opportunities for our students to get into both civilian and non-civilian opportunities at the Department of Defense at Institute for Surgical Research, which is a massive operation with a lot of effort needed for keeping up with the next generation of issues with microbiology and immunology. Also based on national statistics, the San Antonio area and the New Braunfels area on 35 south from here is the 23rd ranked position in the nation, needing microbiologists and immunologists for a variety of positions. And this would also serve as a very good way of, compressing that requirement in this particular area of Texas as well as nationally. The other important thing is that there is a very big presence for biodefense-related training that's needed for providing us with the next generation of scientists who are going to prevent potentially pandemics and other major diseases that are going to emerge, potentially, hopefully not, but if that happens, we need a large group of people who can provide ways to prevent them, and the Department of Defense and San Antonio is positioned to provide that kind of a training that's needed proactively right now, even for the next generation or the next several years. And the other important thing is that the microbiology immunology faculty work very closely with all of these organizations on a regular basis, and their research efforts are completely in sync with what they need. And so our training in the PhD program prepares the students really well ahead for their next job positions at many of these institutions. Secondly, there is also a shortage of infectious disease specialists, and this has borne out really well with the need for what we need now for the pandemic resolution, and this has also increased the level of interest for the students to, take up these positions so that they all feel that they are doing something for the next potential prevention of pandemic. And so that's the kind of the focus that we are having to have this program started so that we are preparing our next generation of scientists ready to tackle these situations. The other important thing is that the program is entirely or predominantly supported by faculty extramural research that has already been secured or in the process of being secured. And so the student stipend and tuition and fees and health coverage is completely covered by the respective labs. There are a total of 39 labs or research labs that will be providing the training. And we also have a very well-established post-training, preparation of the students for their next academic careers or potential careers. Again, we have a variety of graduate advisors and program directors who would also help them with alternative employment opportunities as well as other career paths, which is a very important component of professional development of our students. So based on all of these things, I think the molecular microbiology and immunology program at UTSA is well suited for helping our students succeed. Thank you.
Members, any questions?
I have a comment. So I have undergraduate background in microbiology, spending many hours in labs on weekends and all. So I have an appreciation for the hard work, and so not a PhD level like y'all, but the importance of it, I think, is important. So previously to the question I had, the previous presentation is the University of Texas Health Science Center in San Antonio is a major research area and also has a program. So have y'all studied that, and how does your program differentiate, and is that going to cause problems for you to be able to fill your program at the PhD level, even though when you look at the map of the state of Texas, for South San Antonio, there is none. And you did mention, Dr. Sishu, about a lot of South Texan students possibly applying and being part of your PhD program. But we do have a shortage of scientists in the state. We do have public health crisis in our country, in our state with the pandemic. So my questions are, obviously you've studied their program. How does your program differentiate, and how does that impact your recruitment for PhD candidates?
I can jump in if you don't mind, Madam Chair. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for hearing us propose this program. So we did work with UT Health as well. I'm an immunologist as well by training.
Excuse me, can you give us your name? We can't read the bottom of the screen. Can you and your position, please?
Yes, I should have done that. I'm Ambika Mathur. I'm the Vice Provost of Graduate Studies and Dean of the Graduate School. I'm also a professor in biology, also immunologist by training. So we did talk to UT Health considerably. We have different sets of students who come to us as compared to UT Health. So those are more the students who tend to apply to those programs at UT Health are looking more for the clinical applications, the research that goes into that. The students who come to us at UTSA tend to be more of the undergraduates who are looking for graduate programs, who want to be in that setting that continuum of training, the spectrum, so they can continue to work with undergraduates even as they're doing their PhD, doing the postdocs with us. So they have the entire campus experience as well. So that's been one of the biggest differentiators of all our programs that overlap that way. And we do have significant collaborations with faculty at UT Health as well. So that's all ongoing, and it's a great partnership and collaboration. So I think together we are just enhancing the opportunities in South Texas for all our potential students.
I will also like to add the structured curriculum that we have. As Dr. Mathur said, we also have in our department a bachelor's in science in microbiology and immunology, a master's degree with an emphasis in microbiology and immunology, and therefore, in addition to the outreach at the national, at the state and national level that we have in place, we have that internal source of students that have come through our bachelor's program. And really what makes the big difference between the programs across the institutions is the expertise of the faculty, the areas of research, and with the particular focus that we have in vaccine development, host pathogen interactions, not only in how the microbes, the molecular mechanisms that microbes use to cause disease, but also how the the human body and the immune defenses work together to counter-raise those pathogens. That's basically one of the distinct areas that we have with their program as well. Dr. Sessions?
So one other thing is that the PhD program at the Health Science Center is classified as biomedical research program. It doesn't define whether it is molecular microbiology, immunology. They have a broad-based program where the students will choose whichever labs that they want to go in. But technically, their PhD degree that they would receive after 5 years or whatever the time was is in biomedical research program. So our program is one of the zip code for our program is molecular microbiology and immunology. The only other two other programs is one in Austin and one in College Station. And other than that, we have not seen the name and the zip code used by other medical institutions that do offer programs or have departments that would provide for PhD training in microbiology and immunology, but their program titles are all like with biomedical research programs. So that's one kind of a selling point for our students, because they'd like to see this microbiology, immunology in their degree certificate at the, like in 5 years. And also the need for using that as a way to get into many of the positions. For example, Department of Defense do emphasize that you need to have certain credentials to get into certain positions that are opening up in their labs. And if they look at microbiology is required, they are looking at the syllabus and the title for the degree to match with their expectations for getting into those positions. So we felt that that was also a student input-based need to have this program up and running so that they can be able to get employment in many of the positions that are open at Department of Defense, which is a major employer in San Antonio, as you all might know.
Okay, no, thank you, Dr. Seshu and Dr. Cardona, for being here and explaining the specifics of that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a quick comment. I'm always looking for the silver linings in a pandemic and in this pandemic. And I think that the awareness that the general population has in this field of study has heightened as a result of the pandemic. And I think it's really, it's inspiring for some kids who maybe wouldn't have had the knowledge that this is a field of study. And if we're inspiring kids to go into this field, it's really exciting, and to offer more programs is a great opportunity and a great response to the situation we're in. So congratulations on the program.
Thank you. Any additional questions or comments?
Yeah, I want to second what Ms. Schwartz said, but I also want to tell you that as a non-scientist, I understand about 20% of what you're talking about, okay? But I do understand this. In your written material, it says that the Texas Workforce Commission anticipates about a 10% growth, which is 110
annual job openings. Are these job openings at the PhD level, or are they all job openings?
So this is Ambika Mathur again. Most of these job openings that we refer to, actually all of them are at the PhD level. There are thousands more at the bachelor's and the master's level, but at the PhD, this is what it is. And
so we need 110 new PhD positions in the state of Texas.
In the state of Texas, and also because of, I appreciate Ms. Schwartz's comment as well, because of the pandemic, it's increased the need for PhD trained immunologists and infectious disease specialists. So that number is actually now a little bit underreported. It has gone up since then.
I would also
so
say
my question is this, of the 9 other institutions that offer PhD programs, if you had 9 institutions and 110 jobs, you have about 12 jobs per university per year. How many are they turning out right now, the other 9 institutions?
So most of the time, you see programs only around like 6 to 8 students graduating every year.
Does anybody know the answer to that on the staff?
Yeah. It's around 6 to 8 students, at least with many of the programs.
Okay, so we're not turning out enough positions to fill the requirements right now.
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I wanted to know.
Anyone else? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the request from the University of Texas at San Antonio for a Doctor of Philosophy in Molecular Microbiology and Immunology? May I have a motion?
Emma will move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Congratulations. It passes to the full board.
Thank you.
Agenda item 5G3 is consideration of approving the request from the University of Texas at Tyler for a Doctor of Medicine, an MD, from Dr. Susan Cox, Planning Dean, School of Medicine, and Dr. Julie Philly, Executive Vice President of Health Affairs, are available for questions. Dr. James Goldman will present this item and be available to answer questions. Dr. Goldman.
Thank you, Chair Williams. The University of Texas at Tyler is seeking approval to offer a Doctor of Medicine degree program beginning in fall 2023. The proposed program would require completion of 173 semester credit hours and would be offered face-to-face to students in Tyler. Students would engage in clinical experiences and clerkships within the UT Health East Texas system. The proposed program would enroll up to 160 students during the first 5 years and would offer an emphasis on public health disparities in rural communities with the goal of addressing unmet medical needs in East Texas. The proposed program would prepare students for careers as physicians. The Association of American Medical Colleges projects a shortage of between 54,100 and 139,000 physicians by 2033. This shortage will continue to impact Texans. The Texas Department of State Health Services projects that Texas will face a shortage of 10,330 physicians by 2032. With the number of medical school applicants exceeding available spots in Texas and across the nation, UT Tyler's proposed program could help reduce the expected physician shortage. In Texas, there are 11 fully accredited programs and 4 programs with preliminary accreditation. The proposed program at UT Tyler would be the 16th medical school in Texas if approved. Texas ranks 47th in the nation in the number of active patient care physicians per 100,000 population. In accordance with the institution's proposed hiring schedule, UT Tyler will hire 146 faculty in its first 5 years of operation. The institution would hire 46 faculty to start in fall 2023, 36 faculty to start in fall 24, 22 faculty to start in fall 25, 21 faculty to start in fall 26, and 21 faculty to start in fall 27. The institution will seek accreditation for its MD program from the Liaison Committee on Medical Education. Institutional representatives are ready to answer any questions you may have.
Dr. Cox, would you like to make comments?
I think Dr. Philly's going to make our comments.
Okay, Dr. Philly.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to the board members and to the staff for your assistance with this important project. My name is Julie Philly. I'm a practicing pulmonary and critical care physician here in Tyler, Texas, and I grew up in Northeast Texas in one of the counties with fewer than 5 physicians in this region. We understand that Northeast Texas, and Texas is a large state, but in our region, we are a sick people. Our citizens are of lower socioeconomic status, of less education, and have high mortality related to the 5 top causes of disease, including cancer, stroke, diabetes, and others. If Northeast Texas were a state, we'd be 44th in the nation among the top causes of mortality, while Texas as a whole would be 24th. As you mentioned, we recognize that we're predicting a physician shortage in the state, but we already have one in Northeast Texas, primary care specifically. And this medical school will help to address, it will not solve all of the problems, but it will start to help address the physician shortages. And with our expansion of GME and our commitment to this region, we believe we can improve the state health.
Thank you. Members,
And then I would only add that we are really creating a curriculum to attract folks from the region that will stay in the region to practice medicine. As you know, if you go to medical school in Texas and leave to do your residency, you still have about a 50% chance of coming back to Texas to practice. But if you do medical school and residency in Texas, there's about an 83% chance that you'll practice. And usually within 50% of where you do your 50 miles of where you do your residency. And so we really are creating a program to train physicians to practice in rural Texas.
thank you.
So my question is specifically to that comment, is how are you going to be able to do that? And number one, what are your plans? Because primary care, we do have a shortage, you're correct, in the state of Texas. But when people start medical school, they go through and then they have to do obviously their matches and graduate medical education. And so not everybody's going to go into primary care. People will go orthopedics, people will go OBGYN. So how are you going to, what's your plan? Yes, there is a shortage in East Texas and there's a need primary care. But, you know, we've had proposals come before us that have said very similar things over other areas of the state. So, you know, you're seeking formula funding from the state. So what are specific ideas that you have plans to do that? Because you're going to recruit a good number of students and start a top-notch educational medical school in the state of Texas. But how are you doing it? Whether it's interviewing the students up front in admissions, what is the specific plan that you have to be able to meet those goals? Or do you have one yet?
This is Sue Cox. So of course we have a plan. We'll start with the admissions process. We will be doing holistic admissions, and we are going to target our catchment area to recruiting from the schools within Northeast Texas, the colleges within Northeast Texas. We have data from the Texas Medical Dental Application Service that there are about 300 students from that area that have great GPAs, great MCAT scores that don't match into medical school. So we know we can recruit a good class of students. Second thing is we are creating a longitudinal 2-year community and rural medicine clerkship where they will spend 1/2 day a week for those 2 years with the preceptor out in the community in some of these counties that have 5 or less physicians. So we know from work that we've done at Dell Medical School that the students that did our longitudinal clerkship were more likely to apply residencies in family medicine or other primary care specialties. And then the third thing is we've also contemplated, now we want to get through the LCME accreditation first, right, but contemplated doing a 3-year program of 3 years med school, 3 years of residency, much like what Texas Tech and Steve Beck and colleagues have done. Medical students are offered to do their combined 4th year, 1st year of residency, and do primary care specialty and graduate, get both things in 6 years rather than in 7. So we've got a lot of things in the works to make sure that we recruit people that want to stay in East Texas.
In
Yeah,
addition,
no, that's good. Thank you.
I was just
Go
going
ahead,
to
I'm
jump in
sorry.
to say that we understand also that cost of medical school is important to students. We do have our first inaugural class, provided everything goes well through the accrediting bodies, fully funded for the first 4 years. And we have a tremendous amount of support in this region, this vision. And so we believe that we will be able to offer scholarships and other things as we move forward to have this rural focus.
That's outstanding. So I'm very supportive of the program. I think that the program is well outlined. I've kept up with it very carefully. I think y'all have done a great job to be able to provide that. My question then becomes the residency programs. Can you give us a little detail? Obviously, in some areas of the state and the country, quite frankly, there's issues with general GME, right? Medical education, and the residency programs. Can you give us some specifics on that?
Sure, we'd be happy to. One of the nice things about our vision for this medical school is that we've had a long history of training residents in this region. We started with family medicine back in the 80s and have one of the most prestigious family medicine residency programs in the state. Over the past 5 to 10 years, with the vision of hopefully having a medical school and with training doctors that could stay in this region, we've since started internal medicine, surgery, psychiatry, continued our occupational medicine program, and have plans for anesthesia and other programs in the future. We've grown our residency slots to 146 as of today, with plans to grow this well over 200, and really hoping to attract these students in a pipeline fashion so that they can be born as part of a region in the state, specifically Northeast Texas, and finish their entire training and stay in this area. And by the way, if they just stayed in Texas, we'd be just as proud. So I feel like we'll be a major contributing member to our state's production of quality physicians.
No, that's great, and you have thought that out. I just think it's important to realize when students go to professional school, graduate school, in this example, in this proposal for medical school, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of money, and a lot of state resources that go into this. And so it's really important. And right now, during the pandemic, quite frankly, I know many colleagues and friends that are having trouble and struggling with many issues. So in terms of dealing with patients. And so I think it's important to realize, number one, that, you know, we have a lot of shortages in healthcare, and you cited the numbers of physicians in our state. And so it's important to realize that what people are getting into and the quality education that we have. So just quite frankly, you know, since I've been on the board, I've called some meetings that I have with current programs that we have set up and checking in with programs, because a lot of times we seek programs, and I know people have plans, but the reason I ask that question is because I think it's important when you set up programs that you look at these things, but things don't always come out the way you think they're going to come out. So we have to pivot in many areas. And because the state and the coordinating board is making these key decisions on opening up programs, and again, I applaud y'all for doing this, and I'm in favor of it. And I think y'all are doing a great job at UT Tyler to set up this medical school and everything that's been done so far, and the community, because I know friends and colleagues that are in that area of the state and have done a lot of hard work. And so I think this is going to be a great opportunity. But you have to realize that going back and as we check in with people 2, 4, 6 years down the line, things don't always work out. So we need to be able to pivot and be able to provide for students and the families of students that are, you know, coming out with high student debt for medical education these days, that we provide the highest quality program. And I know the UT system and UT Tyler is going to work very hard at doing that. So I just emphasize that because we get calls and we talk to folks with medical school leaderships, chancellors and presidents and deans of medical schools, and there are challenges, as you know, in terms of not necessarily accreditation, but just the operation side of medical education. So, no, I again applaud you and all the work that y'all have done and wish you continued success. Like I said, I think this program for this part of the state is very needed, and I appreciate your comments about, yes, I know it's going to be hard to get everybody to try to stay within East Texas in the state, but the more specific, the reason I bring it up, the more specific that we continue to, and you guys continue to work hard at that, that's how things can happen. So, again, keep up the great work.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I mean, back to echo what you said, the residency alignment is key, because if they educate and then there's, you know, we've been told there's a shortage of residency slots in the state of Texas, and so the state is losing medical students to other regions because there's not sufficient slots in the area. So I'd be curious to, you know, to see what partners they've talked to or who, you know, in that region, because if we lose them, if they do the residency somewhere else, they will lose them. And so I agree with the need in East Texas, and obviously, back to your point, in the ideal world, those students go to school there and stay there and practice, but from a practical standpoint, you got to have the residency slots available. And just to comment on your other comment, a medical school costs a lot more long term. So is the UT system fully willing to fund this, or will they be having to go back to the state for other resources, because it does, you know, it's not cheap to set these up?
I could jump in to say we're very proud that we secured $80 million from the East Texas Medical Center Foundation to start this medical school. We've received a $20 million commitment in operating and matching funds to that, and that's excluding the philanthropy scholarships that I just mentioned, and many other areas where we believe that we will avoid asking for any other funding rather than in the legislative budget in the future. So this is, again, tremendous amount of support from this region to show that our citizens recognize there's a need, but we're also willing to stay behind the long term of making it happen. Could not agree with you more about residency slot, growing them as fast as we can. You also can appreciate, to attract really good residents, many people associate that with the medical school. So all of these things go hand in hand. We will be happy to report back to you on our progress.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what Chairman Frias said, we would want you to be very successful, and we know from experience what hurdles are down there, and so it's if we approve something at the program level, it takes on a life of its own, and so I would think we would want to have interim checkups to see how it's going.
Right, and there are. So, and they're well aware of that, because exactly right, Mr. Wilson. We want you to be very successful, and we want to be able to provide anything we can to help you be successful. And I know that you and the UT system are doing a very good job about looking about those residency slots and providing the opportunities to the students. And really, I think, I don't want to overemphasize, but I will emphasize again that I like your goals and all that. But the thing is, the challenge will be keeping the students that you want and targeting the students that you want. And I can't overemphasize that enough. But you know that's going to be a big challenge. But thank you all for providing the opportunities for more students to help meet the goals and the needs of the state.
Any more questions, comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the request from the University of Texas at Tyler for a Doctor of Medicine?
So moved.
I have a motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Next on the agenda item is lunch, but we are coming up on noon, and we have one more agenda item to go before adjournment. So would you guys like to stop for lunch or keep powering through? Power through? Okay. All right, we will power through. Okay. Next on the list is agenda item 5I, is consideration of possible adoption of the proposed amendments to 19 Texas Administrative Code Rule 4.278 concerning off-campus workforce education or lower division programs offered by a public institution of higher education at the request of an employer. Dr. Andrews Lofters will present this item and be available for questions. Dr. Lofters.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are 10 higher education regional councils in Texas that consist of universities, community colleges, technical colleges, and Lamar State colleges within that region. These regional councils correspond to the 10 uniform state service regions. The purpose of the Higher Education Regional Council is to advise the commissioner on appropriate policies and procedures for the effective state-level administration of off-campus lower division instruction. The proposed amendment to Rule 4.278 clarifies criteria that must be in place for a public institution of higher education to offer credit or non-credit off-campus workforce education or lower division programs at a site requested by an employer without Higher Education Regional Council approval. This language brings the rule in alignment with the newly added Texas Education Code, Section 51.981, that resulted from the passage of House Bill 4361 in the 87th Texas Legislature regular session. The language of Texas Education Code 51.981 states that public institutions of higher education may provide a credit or non-credit off-campus workforce education or lower division program at a site requested by an employer with or without Higher Education Regional Council approval if the employer has previously solicited an institution of higher education to offer the specified instruction at the site. 2, the site is located within the uniform service region of the community college or the community college service area of the originally solicited institution of higher education. And 3, the originally solicited institution of higher education did not finalize an offer that meets the employer's specifications within 6 weeks of the initial solicitation. Once these criteria have been met, an institution of higher education has entered into an agreement with the employer may offer the workforce education or lower division programs at the site requested by the employer without Higher Education Regional Council approval. These amendments are limited to implementing the revision to statute enacted by House Bill 4361. That concludes my presentation on this item, and I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have it.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the adoption of the proposed amendments to Rule 4.278 concerning off-campus workforce education or lower division programs offered by a public institution of higher education at the request of an employer? May I have a motion?
So move.
I have a motion. May I have a second? Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. That brings us to agenda item number 6, which is adjournment. Is there any further discussion? May I have a motion?
Move.
May I have a second? Been moved and seconded. We'll now take a short break for lunch, and when we come back, it will be the Agency Operations Academic Committee meeting. Thank you.
So we're going to take a 30-minute break. Is that 45 minutes or so? Also, no business will be discussed during the lunch, and official business for the board, and we'll be back at say 45 minutes, 30 minutes. Okay, so we'll be back at 12:30. 12:30. Thank you.